Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news at 6 on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs recommends holding monsoon session from July 17th, the day of the presidential election session, to continue till August 11th. Election Commission rejects petitions of 21 AAP legislators to drop Office of Profit case against them. Commission says Delhi High Court order will not come in the way of deciding their likely disqualification. Prime Minister Narendra Modi begins three-nation visit with the first leg in Portugal. Prime Minister to arrive for summit meeting with US President Donald Trump on Sunday. Saudi Arabia foils terrorist action against the Grand Mosque in Mecca. Suicide bomber blows himself up in a building, injuring 11 people, including some police officers. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday reached Portugal, the first stop of his three-nation tour. During his visit, Modi will meet his counterpart Antonio Costa in Portugal capital Lisbon and discuss ways to enhance bilateral ties in multiple areas, including economic engagements, science and technology. Both leaders are also expected to review the progress of various joint initiatives and discuss new areas of partnership. After the meeting, the two leaders will also reportedly launch India-Portugal International Startup Hub. Modi is also expected to have an interaction with the Indian community. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is headed to the United States to meet President Donald Trump for the first time. The Prime Minister is on a three-nation tour to Portugal, United States and the Netherlands. He will be visiting the US on June 25th and 26th and the Netherlands on June 27th. During the visit, he will hold talks with the top leadership of all countries to boost bilateral ties. This will be the Prime Minister's fourth visit to the United States.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday left for his three-nation tour, including the United States. His official tour to US will start on Sunday. This will be Modi's first visit since Donald Trump took charge as President of US in January. On June 25th, the Prime Minister will address members of the Indian community in Washington. US President Donald Trump will host dinner for him on June 26th. This is the first working dinner that Trump will be hosting as the US President for any visiting foreign leader. Before leaving for US, Modi took to social media to state that he was looking forward to an in-depth exchange of views.
A wide variety of subjects. We cover defense and security. We cover counterterrorism. We cover the broader political relationship between the two largest democracies of. We cover trade and investment issues. We have very important people-to-people links.
Apart from official meetings with Trump and his cabinet, Modi will meet some prominent American CEOs. The talks between the two leaders will focus on Donald Trump's H-1B visa program and terrorism. Climate change will also be an important topic of discussion between the two leaders. India and US will also discuss the sale of US fighter jets during the PM's trip.
A roundtable discussion with the 20-odd top CEOs from American industry covering different areas. I think this will provide an opportunity for them to tell us what their plans are, how they're looking at India as a market, India as a destination.
After US, Modi will travel to Netherlands on June 27th. He will have an official meeting with the Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte in order to boost bilateral ties and deepen economic cooperation between the two nations. He will also call on King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima of the Netherlands. Both countries are celebrating 70 years of the establishment of Indo-Dutch diplomatic relations this year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The monsoon session of Parliament will begin on July 17th, the same day that voting for the presidential election is to take place. The Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs has recommended holding the session from July 17 to August 11th. The CCPA meeting, chaired by Home Minister Rajnath Singh, was held on Friday evening, soon after the NDA's presidential nominee, Ramnath Kovind, filed his nomination papers. However, the Parliament is unlikely to transact any business on the first day of the session on account of the death of two sitting MPs, Lok Sabha member Vinod Khanna and Rajya Sabha member Pallavi Reddy. Well, the Election Commission rejected petitions of 21 ARP legislators to drop the Office of Profit case against them. The poll panel said that the Delhi High Court order that set aside their appointments will not come in the way while deciding their disqualification, as the MLAs held the post de facto. Here's a report.
In a major setback to the Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi, the Election Commission rejected petitions of 20 MLAs to drop the Office of Profit case against them. The Delhi High Court had quashed their appointments as parliamentary secretaries last September.
तो एक बड़ी ही दिलचस्प सिचुएशन है ये, और मुझे लगता है कि ये जो ऑर्डर है इलेक्शन कमीशन का, ये भी सभी तरीके की रेमेडीज के लिए ओपन है. इसके अंदर कई तरीके से इसके लिए भी कई द्वार खुलते हैं.
The Election Commission said the Aam Aadmi Party legislators held the office of parliamentary secretaries from March 13, 2005 to September 8, 2016. Despite their appointments being quashed, it said all decisions taken during this period were valid and subject to scrutiny. The EC will decide on their disqualification in its final hearing in August. The Office of Profit petition was initially filed against 21 AAP MLAs. However, proceedings against Jarnail Singh were dropped after he resigned to contest assembly polls in Punjab. Prashant Patel, who filed the petition, called the EC's ruling a victory.
अब ये केस की लास्ट स्टेज है, चूँकि एमएलएस की आर्गूमेंट थी कि हाई कोर्ट ने 7 सितंबर 2016 को उनके अपॉइंटमेंट को कैंसिल कर दिया, इसलिए ऑफिस ऑफ प्रॉफिट का केस नहीं चलना चाहिए. लेकिन उनकी दलील को खारिज करते हुए चुनाव आयोग ने कहा है कि उन्होंने लगभग 16 महीने ऑफिस ऑफ प्रॉफिट वो पार्लियामेंट्री सेक्रेटरी की पोस्ट जो है हेल्ड की है, इसलिए उनके ऊपर कार्रवाई होगी और वो केस कंटिन्यू रहेगा.
Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal defended the appointment of the parliamentary secretaries. He also sought the legislators from disqualification. However, the president refused to give assent to the Delhi government's bill on the matter. Anu Diwan's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, protesters marched through the streets in several places on Saturday as the indefinite shutdown in the Darjeeling Hills entered its 10th day. Now, meanwhile, GJM Chief Bimal Gurung threatened to intensify agitation for a separate state. Addressing the media, he added that he will fight till the end for their one-point agenda of Gorkhaland. Internet services were suspended for the 7th day and local cable channels also remained blocked in many areas. Elected members of the Gorkha Territorial Administration belonging to the Gorkha Janmukti Morcha, which is leading the stir, resigned en masse on Friday. The party decided to burn copies of the GTA Accord reached in 2011 between the Union Home Ministry, the West Bengal government and the GJM on June 26th and 27th. The West Bengal government on Friday offered a dialogue to defuse the crisis, while Home Secretary Malay Dey said the doors of the government were open for talks to restore normalcy in the hills.
GTA को खारिज कर रहा हूं और चाहता हूं कि अभी ये GTA का एक्ट और एग्रीमेंट जो भी है वो 27 तारीख को हम लोग इसको जलाएंगे.
हामी हाम्रो जातिको हाम्रो गोर्खाल्यान्ड माग्दै छौं. हामी जाति जाति आफ्नो आफ्नो वेशभूषामा निस्केर सबै नेपाली जाति एक भएर यति हो. हामी जति पनि नेपाली जाति छौं सब एक छौं. गोर्खाली जाति एक छौं.
टेररिस्ट का गांव नहीं है. टेररिस्ट को ढूंढना है बॉर्डर में जाओ, लेकिन यहाँ पर सीआरपी रख के क्या हम लोग तो टेररिस्ट तो नहीं है ना. सबको अगर वो करना है तो उधर में जाना चाहिए. हम लोग सिर्फ मांग कर रहे हैं अपना गोरखालैंड चाहिए बस. जय गोरखा जय गोरखालैंड.
A leading intergovernmental financial watchdog has slammed Pakistan for continued complicity in financing terrorist entities. At its meeting in Spain's Valencia, the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF, closely scrutinized Pakistan's record on terror financing. At the meet, FATF said that the certain UN-designated terror groups in the country were receiving money due to lack of control by the authorities. It is noteworthy that FATF is a Paris-based organization which sets standards for banks globally and promotes measures for combating money laundering and terrorist financing. A report on Pakistan's complicity in terror financing was discussed at the FATF plenary, the group's highest decision-making body, that took place from 18th to the 23rd of June. The scathing remarks come just 2 years after Pakistan was removed from a blacklist that imposed enhanced surveillance on the country's financial system. Now the issue will be discussed at organization's Asia-Pacific Group annual meeting in July. Let's now take a look at some more national developments in nationwide. The Election Commission on Saturday disqualified Madhya Pradesh Minister Narottam Mishra for submitting wrong expenditure accounts in the polls. Mishra has been debarred from contesting polls for 3 years. He had allegedly published paid news in various newspapers ahead of the 2008 Assembly elections without accounting for the expense. Two people were arrested from Hyderabad on Friday with demonetized banknotes worth 70 lakh rupees after a tip-off. The duo had allegedly taken money from their own and planned to exchange it for profit. Since the Supreme Court's liquor ban along the highways, nearly 133 establishments along NH48 and NH44 will no longer be allowed to sell liquor after 30th June. Bengaluru's famous hubs, MG Road and Brigade Road, will be hugely affected. The ban calls for shutdown of liquor sale in any establishment in a range of 500 meters from the highway. Chhattisgarh's Sukma district saw yet another gun battle between the Special Task Force and the Maoists. 5 STF personnel have been injured in the ongoing bloody feud. The security forces were reportedly cordoning off a patch of the forest near Chinta Gufa when they were attacked by Naxals, which led to an exchange of fire. Well, it's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
The cement that is being manufactured has got a particular 2 or 3 drawbacks. One is it has to use naturally available materials. 1 ton of CO2, close to 1 ton is being emitted for 1 ton of carbon, 1 ton of cement being produced. Institutes in this country as well as all over the world has stumbled upon what is called another material called as a geopolymer, which may revolutionize this particular thing.
Watch Eureka with Dr. N. Gopalakrishnan, Director CSIR, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Unakoti, the famous Shaiva pilgrimage spot in Tripura, dates back to the 8th and 9th century. The name means one less than a crore. It owes its origin to an interesting legend that says Lord Shiva, who was on his way to Kashi, stopped here for a night halt along with gods and goddesses. Together, their number totaled 1 crore. At sunrise the next day, Lord Shiva was incensed to find all the gods and goddesses still asleep. Cursing them to become stone images, he left alone for Kashi. Unakoti, apart from its rock-cut carvings, has an imposing Shiva head called the Unakotishwara Kal Bhairav. Other eye-catching works include 3 enormous images of Nandi bull that are half buried in the ground and a gigantic Ganesh. To this day, the logistics of these huge carvings remain a mystery.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries.
Renowned economist Amartya Sen needs no introduction. Recipient of the Nobel Prize for Economics in 1998, Sen has always shown a keen interest in the problems of the underprivileged. He has made immense contributions to the discipline of welfare economics and social choice theory, and his books have been translated into more than 30 languages. In 2010, Amartya Sen was listed among the world's 50 most influential people who matter.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. As a bombing attempt of the Mecca mosque was foiled by the Saudi authorities and the bomber blew himself up, injuring 11 people. Saudi authorities have said that several terrorist groups could be behind the attack, where 11 people were injured and several arrests have already been made. Let's take a look.
A major tragedy was averted on Friday when Saudi security forces prevented an imminent attack on the Grand Mosque in Mecca. A suspect in the planned attack blew himself up in a nearby neighborhood when security forces surrounded the home where he was hiding. The man did put up a fight, refusing to surrender, then opening fire on the forces before killing himself.
البيت بيت أخويا وأنا ساكن فوق وجيت سمعت الصوت على طول نزلت البيت وجيت طلعت أخواني وأمي وأهلي كلهم ودوا المستشفى. الصباح كان ساعة 9:30 كده.
6 people, all foreign pilgrims, were injured as the suspect blew himself up. 5 security personnel also received minor injuries. 5 people, including 1 woman, have been arrested for their suspected involvement in the plan. The Saudi Interior Ministry blames 3 groups to be behind the planned attack, 2 based in Mecca and 1 in Jeddah. Despite the recent acrimony, Iran and Qatar sent Saudi Arabia their support. Iran expressed readiness to assist and cooperate with other countries to confront these criminals who deal death and ignorantly spread hate. Qatar too expressed solidarity with Saudi Arabia. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, Qatar dismissed a list of demands submitted by 4 Arab countries, calling them neither reasonable or actionable. Qatar's foreign ministry said in a statement on Friday that this list of demands confirms what Qatar has said from the beginning. The illegal blockade has nothing to do with combating terrorism. It is about limiting Qatar's sovereignty and outsourcing our foreign policy. The US Secretary of State recently called upon the blockading nations to produce a list of grievances that was reasonable and actionable. The British Foreign Secretary asked that the demands be measured and realistic. This list does not satisfy that criteria, unquote. Earlier this month, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, United Arab Emirates and Bahrain broke ties with Qatar over allegations that it funds terrorism, a claim that Qatar denies. Among the 13 conditions, the 4 Arab countries demanded the closure of Al Jazeera TV, funded by the Qatari government. They also want Qatar to reduce its ties with Iran and close the Turkish military base, set a deadline on Friday of 10 days. Qatar said an official response will be ready after they have reviewed the demands. Over 140 people are feared buried after a landslide hit China's Sichuan province on Saturday morning. Local authorities declared a state of top emergency after the incident. Meanwhile, both President and Premier have called for rescuers to spare no effort in their search for survivors. Here's a report.
More than 140 people are feared buried after a landslide hit China's Sichuan province. The landslide occurred when the side of a mountain collapsed on Saturday morning, blocking a 2-kilometer stretch of river in a valley. The landslide was triggered by recent heavy rains in the region, with the situation being made worse due to the lack of vegetation in the area. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Keqiang have urged all-out efforts to search for those missing. Around 500 rescuers with 23 sniffer dogs are working at the site, searching for survivors trapped beneath rocks. Even as authorities recovered 5 bodies from under the debris, 3 people from one family were also rescued alive hours after the landslide.
我们就跟着等那会儿，我们村民那些地方的隔壁的村民，把我们弄去洗给娃娃去找衣服，给我们找衣服，啥子遇到政府那个乡政府嘛。
Landslides are frequent in many parts of rural and mountainous China, particularly when it rains heavily. Around 12 people were killed in January this year when a similar incident occurred in central Hubei province. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, here's a roundup of some more news from across the world in Global Buzz. 5 residential London tower blocks were evacuated due to fire safety concerns over their external cladding following the deadly Grenfell Tower inferno. Fire checks were conducted at some 600 high-rise buildings across England. It resulted in thousands of residents in housing estates that were forced to leave their apartments to sleep on airbeds in local sports centres. Washington's special envoy to Afghanistan and Pakistan, Laurel Miller, stepped down just as the United States is preparing to send thousands more troops to the region. The Trump administration said Miller was returning to a position at the RAND Corporation and nothing has been decided what to do with the post. Miller's responsibilities will now fall under the department's South and Central Asian Affairs Bureau, including India. Colombia's National Liberation Army rebels handed over 2 Dutch journalists to a humanitarian commission. They were kidnapped a week ago in the Catatumbo forest region. The journalists somehow appear to be in good condition, accompanied by the ELN guerrillas in camouflage who covered the lower part of their faces with the armed group's flags. Indian origin Sikh human rights advocate Balbinder Kaur Shergill was appointed Judge of the Supreme Court of British Columbia in New Westminster, Canada. Shergill is the first turbaned Sikh to be appointed to the judiciary in Canada. The appointment was made with immediate effect as Justice Shergill replaces Justice E. Arnold Bailey, who retired on May 31st. The recapture of the city of Mosul from Islamic State will be announced in a few days, said the Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi. Islamic State militants blew up the Grand Al-Nouri Mosque in Mosul and its famous leaning minaret as Iraqi forces seeking to expel the group from the city closed in on the site. Well, shifting focus to some sports news now. At the Australian Open Super Series badminton tournament, Indian shuttler Kidambi Srikanth entered the final by defeating the world's 4th seed Shi Yuqi of China. The world number 11 beat Shi Yuqi 21-10, 21-14 in straight games. Srikanth will now face the winner of the match between China's Chen Long and Korea's Lee Hyun in the finals. Well, that's it on this newscast. Have a good evening.